It's time for ZGR Radio right here on NEWHD Rock Evolution. This is Take 5, NEWHD. My name is Scot Apathy. I'm the host of ZGR Radio, and I'm super, super excited because I'm sitting here with JJ Lovegrove, and we'll be talking about her latest release. But I'm excited for a number of reasons. First, when I started the playlist that eventually evolved into ZGR Radio, JJ was one of the very first artists on the playlist. And we've been sort of in touch over Twitter, but really haven't had the opportunity to just sit down and talk sort of face to face, at least virtually, like we're going to now. And so that's really, really super exciting. And when I saw that she had a release going on, and she was doing kind of a unique Halloween rollout of the new EP, it just sort of became a no-brainer to do a Take 5. And she and I are going to just chat and talk about things and catch up a little bit. And that's where they're at. So, Judy, go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll kick this thing off.
Great, thank you. I'm JJ Lovegrove, or Judy, and I'm an independent artist based in the UK, and I guess I'm sort of a dark pop artist. I think it's hard to put yourself in these little boxes that exist. But yeah, I'm an independent artist just trying to carve a little way, as we all are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This EP, in my estimation, was really a brave adventure on your side because of how fast you went about it. So I'm really curious to talk to you about, why you decided to do, I think, what was it, a 5-week run on it?
It was, yeah.
What possessed you to do that? Right? Because that's chaos. I just am curious as to whether or not at the end of the 5 weeks, and you're like, ding, time's up, whether you feel like, oh man, I only got 80% there, or whether you feel like you got it all done. And what happened?
Yeah, it was you say brave, or it was a bit foolish. And the title of one of the tracks obviously has come back to haunt me since, when I've in reflection. But it's been a really fun journey, and I knew I was going to do a Halloween calendar because I'd already earmarked that, and I've done that last year as well. But I usually just share things to do with where I live, or sort of haunted things, the sort of ghostly tales that have been around me in my childhood, or an exploration of live gigs that I'm doing, or just what I'm up to at the time. But this year, I sort of thought that it might be an opportunity to be a bit more intimate with audiences and show them my process, and be really vulnerable, and go through demos as I was writing them, and lyrics as I was writing them, and the concepts behind the songs as I was digging to get those lyrics and write those things, because I had this earmarked out as a 4-week section of time anyway. And I was already talking about some of these concepts that were going to be influencing the songs. And I'm very lucky to live where I live in Nottingham, and it's hard to not be affected by some of the literary things that I'm surrounded with as well. So I just saw it as this huge opportunity to share with audiences, like you're supposed to be able to do on social media, but we can't really do that, if we're honest. And I loved the process, actually. I found it hugely rewarding, of just being a bit more vulnerable and showing a work in progress, because I think we're so conditioned to sort of deliver the final product. And those of us who are musicians and artists will know that you go on this huge journey to write, to record, release this stuff. And that moment that it's released, it's a huge spike. And then there's nothing. There's like silence, and it all builds up to this one point. And I feel like that journey between the songs and releasing them has got longer and longer. And it feels like everywhere you look on social media, artists are told about 6-week release campaigns, or this is why you're not getting seen, this is why you're doing it wrong. And I felt that there was a bit of a pressure to have this machine in place when really there is no machine in place. It is just me. So instead of, sort of adhering to those rules and those boundaries, I thought I could use the power of being an independent artist and gain some freedom by actually going, I could actually record a track today and release it tomorrow. And that there's got to be some power in being an independent artist, and that is the freedom and the power that you have. So I thought that that's what I would do. And so, yeah, over the course of 5 weeks, I just sort of wrote and recorded demos, and then went into the studio to record the tracks. And it meant I was able to share instrumental tracks too, and have an instrumental version of this, and a more classical feel to it. I knew I wanted it to be more piano based, because I just wanted to get back down to the raw songs, really. And it was a really rewarding but hard process, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that I challenged myself, I guess, to sort of deliver those songs. And when you say about, am I happy with the overall concept, I think the only thing I would like more time on delivering is the physical product. The last track of the EP was literally recorded the night before it was released. So it was to the wire, and the lyrics for that were so hard to just get out at a really busy time, sort of leading up to Halloween and the calendar, and I was juggling all of these things. But what it meant was that as it was released, I then had to start work on the physical product, and I've hand sewn every element of the physical product, and as a little parcel and everything. So that's the bit that's taken a little bit of time, saying it's released, but it's not quite released yet, because I've got to make it. So I would have had a bit more time for that, really. But I'm glad I put the restraints on that I did, because otherwise, how do you know when a song's finished? Really, I guess I wanted it to be me now in this autumn, and I could have sat with the songs forever and then decided to release them. But I'm glad I did what I've done. Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Why is it called Unravelled, the Elegies? Why was there something that sparked that, or is it what happened?
Yeah, I was inspired by, again, listening to the radio. I had this peak of listening, and it was listening about the Odyssey and Homer's Odyssey, and everyone's always talks about Homer and the Odyssey being this huge journey, and the themes that are touched on are never really explaining Penelope. And Penelope in the Odyssey, I was intrigued by this idea that she would marry out time and mark time and stretch time by weaving. She was asked to weave this funeral coat for Laertes, but every night she would unravel what she'd already done. So she'd make it by day, and then by night she would unravel it. And it stopped me in my tracks a little bit, because I think as an artist, and certainly songwriting at night, mostly for me, it did feel like there was an element of me unraveling things at night, and that by day I feel like a different person sometimes, depending on what it is I'm doing. And sometimes it can feel like a bit of an alter ego when you go to work at nighttime. And I loved this idea of unraveling things and then putting them back together. So from that, it sort of sparked this idea of me being able to pull out the threads of what I was thinking at the time. And, obviously there's an EP in you, or there's songs in you. You feel like you want something, you've got to say something. And I was already starting to explore some of those themes. So this unraveled element was a way of me finding a way of taking all the threads of the thoughts and feelings I was having now in this body, now this time in autumn, and weaving those together to make something new to share with everybody. And that's kind of where the Unravelled Elegies comes from, really.
The first single, Foolish Things, which will be on the show, When you and I were chatting early on, you said, yeah, it's a little more upbeat than most of my other stuff. And you were absolutely right. You just basically sat it on a rock forward drum beat and put everything on top of that. And I really, really like that. Can you tell me a little bit about the single, why you chose that song and how it came to be? I think a little different than everything else that's on the EP.
Yeah, it is. I wanted there to be one track that would hold up as a single, and also sort of just have that dark element that I still have in like sort of Lie Detector and drive forward the EP, so that I'd have something to hang on to really. And as I was writing the track, the rhythmic element of the keyboard part sort of really drove that idea of having this rhythmical element and having a band on there. And it was the idea for the lyrics again had started to be made already, and it was just this idea of sort of where time just drags. So I liked the element of having a vocal and lyrics that sort of spread across a beat that was like sort of being drawn out and like elastic, but behind there was this marching of time in a drum or a rhythmic element. And I loved reading about this idea of this dancing plague. I don't know if you've heard about the dancing plagues, but medieval times there was these things called dancing plagues where people would just be compelled to dance, and they thought that there was some form of madness that could be caught, but people would just start dancing, and they would dance a bit like the Red Shoes, I guess. And it just happened in religious area, elements to those things, but this idea that something takes hold of you. And I think in my head I had this image of the Elvis biopic where he just feels the beat of the music and he feels compelled by something to let this rhythm and the music take him. And I think that's the rhythmic element of Foolish Things. That's where it comes from. It's very much this kind of possession of, music taking hold of you. So that's where Foolish Things was born, really.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your process, about where you come up with your ideas for your songs. You mentioned that you're sort of dark with your music and your lyrics. Where's that coming from? And let's just chat a little bit about it.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess I'm a lyricist as well. I'm a big advocate for lyrics. I don't think they get spoken about enough, and they tend to be a bit of a throwaway for some artists or some people. And I think that goes in waves depending on current trends as well. And we've certainly had a lot of, periods of time where lyrics have been the last thing to hear on the radio. And it's mostly been just noises or oohs and ahs. But I guess that depends on the genre. But I'm a huge advocate for lyrics. And most of my songs begin as a little section of writing, really, that I've heard or that I've come up with as something sparked when I've listened to like the radio or a documentary or somebody in conversation. I have notebook upon notebook that I carry with me everywhere, even to bed. And I just have it so that I can write these things down when they come to me. And often a song will begin as a couplet or a little idea that I have, and that gets fleshed out using the notebooks that I have. I'll then sit down and pore through the notebooks to sort of construct the rest of the lyrics once I've started writing a chord structure or something. So it very much begins as a little seed, and then I might go to the piano and find the chords to suit that melody that I'm singing in my head, and then it's the difficult process of sitting down and writing the lyrics. It's not an easy task. I love it. I really love lyric writing, but I do put myself through it to get to the lyrics, because I want to make every word work really hard to be there. I don't just want to have like, well, that rhymes, so I'll put that there. So yeah, it is torturous sometimes to do that, but I do love it. And when it's finished, and I feel more proud of my lyrics than my songs mostly. Yeah, it feels like an accomplishment. And you've said something that you didn't even know you needed to hear sometimes too. My songs can be a lot braver than I am.
So the darkness that you talk about, like it's almost like a goth undercurrent with your music. Where does that come from?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of that sort of music, and The Cure are like my favorite band ever. And this inherent, they call it the duende in music, that you hear this inherent sadness that is in music, I think is where the sweet spot lies for me. It's sort of hearing that little thread in songs, and it just stops you in your tracks and makes you feel changed or taps into parts of things when you listen to. And I think it's not a conscious effort. I've realized that it's just what I do. It's just the way that I process things. I think life's pretty tough for most of us, a lot of us. And my way of working through those things certainly is as therapy, is music, and being able to put into songs those thoughts and feelings I found is therapeutic for me. It means that I have a way of processing them. It means that I can share them with other people as well. And the way that connects with audiences live especially is really special. It's I'm really honored to have that. And I find that the more tricky subjects that I want to, write about and delve into, the more people connect with them. And they hold power when you can sort of acknowledge them for yourself. You realize that you're not on your own. There are other people feeling those very things that you think are so unique to you in your childhood or your life now, but it's quite the opposite. So yeah, I guess that darkness just runs through everything inherently.
Well, I think it's a great EP. I love the sound of it. That's what I said before. I do like that it's in a way stripped down to you just sitting with your piano. I think that's really, really cool. What's next? What is JJ Lovegrove going to do next?
What am I going to do next? Well, for the most part, I'd like to try and take December off. I really like December as a sort of deep, contemplative time to focus on writing and filling up my cup a little bit and reading and exploring stuff to focus on the next thing. It sort of tops me up creatively to deep dive into that slow hours of winter. I've got a gig, last gig in December, and then I think I will just plan the next few steps really while I finish all that this has to offer, because there's lots more secrets that this has got in there as well, and I'll be sharing that throughout the winter while I hibernate a little, I think, in recovery.
Yeah, right. Well, so listen, congratulations on your release. Super excited about it. I hope it really does well for you. I'll do what I always do, which is get the songs out in front of people and see how many years I can get them in. And thank you so much for sitting down for a conversation.
No, thank
it's
you.
really nice.
It's been a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks a lot.
See you soon.